give a shout out to Point, who was generously provided these mannequins that were used for all the haircutting classes. I love using these mannequins, not just because they're great mannequins as cutting through hair, but because of the ethical manufacturing standards that they have in place when creating their product. And I think in the times we're in right now, that's very important to think about where your money's going when you spend it. So thank you, Pivot Point. And also, just like yesterday, if you're back on day 2 and you saw classes yesterday, we're giving away a great gift or a toolkit at the end of this webinar. Stick around to figure out how you can win. Other than that, we're jumping right in. I'm honored to have you back, DJ, day 2. I don't want to wear out my welcome, so just knock it out of the park, man.
All right, buddy. Thank you. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. Going to start off the day for you with a little haircutting tutorial. This is the same mannequin I did yesterday. We did 2 different techniques. We did round and triangular concave layers. And today we're going to turn that into a bob and on the longer side. And then I'm going to layer that bob and show you how to protect the outline. And also we're going to work with the side parting. For right now, I'm going to work symmetrically just so we can cut the bob outline in. So I've gone right down the middle. And I've done a little kind of interesting section in here. If you guys know me, you'll notice that this is something that I do quite often. I start the bob from the front instead of starting from the back. So I'm going to hand off my camera and we're going to get started. Right, let's do this. So the reason why I've sectioned this way is because I get the entire hairline in that first section. And if you notice, I get the majority of the hair falling on this area where we have the least amount of hair. And we also have this protrusion called the ear. So what that does is it actually suppresses the ear. See, if I come through and I take little sections, the ear may cause me to cut a hole there. Then it's game over. So I'd rather start in the front than the back. And another reason for that is when you start in the back, she cannot see what you're doing. So she's freaking out just as much as you're freaking out. And it's very difficult sometimes to put a length in here when the intended length has been described up here. Your client never says, I want the length here. It's not a thing that's done. They point to the front. So instead of me guessing all the way through, I'd rather start from that point and get that in. I'm going to layer the bob, so it makes no sense for me to work minute little sections and working from the back towards the front and making lots of mistakes and that bob jumping up to where she didn't want it, because then I have to layer it. So time consumption. You've got to be kind of aware of that kind of thing, and you know how to be a hybrid haircutter. You know, choosing when to be gas and when to be electric in a sense. So this is something that I've been doing for many, many years, even way back in my time at Vidal Sassoon when I was a teacher there. This is how I would start to do bobs. And once I started to really do a bob from the front towards the back instead of the back towards the front, I realized then that my time at Sassoon was going to come to an end because I'd started to already think about different variations and stuff like that. Pretty much a haircutting nerd. Been a teacher my entire career, except for the 2 years of beginning in school and then training. So I really look to kind of break haircuts down and do them in different ways that may be a little simpler and maybe more entertaining for us instead of the same boring thing all the time. So I've taken my first section from the apex, curved that all the way around to the occipital, and I'm going to start in the front. So I'm going to get the mannequin up as high as possible. If this was a client, I would have her sat in the chair, or I would have her stood up if I needed it to be higher. The chair didn't reach. One of the things that you've got to be aware of is how much water you have in the hair. See, to me, this is the secret sauce right here. this makes your life so much easier because this adds weight to the hair. Gravity pulls that water down, and then it keeps the hair nice and heavy and suppresses the ear. It doesn't start jumping up. Obviously, I'm working on a wavier texture of hair, so I'll have to be very careful with the amount of tension I use. Using the comb adds tension. No tension is me not touching it. So if I just do this, that's zero tension. If the hair was straight, I could do that. I wouldn't have to use the comb. But the comb, what that's going to do for me is it's going to stabilize the hair from moving backwards and forwards so I can cut the line efficiently. The most difficult area in this haircut is the ear. And the reason why I'm starting from the front again is so I can work that place first. If I cut that in first, it's not going to jump up anywhere else because there's not another ear in front or behind it. If I start from the back and move forward, it might be great until I get to the ear and then I make a mistake at the end of the haircut. That's game over. You know what I mean? So what I do is I comb the hair. I don't comb from the roots all the time. I put it in place first. I want it to look like water coming down a waterfall. Once it's in place, I don't want to go up here and rake through there again because that's going to use excessive tension. It's going to pull the hair. All I want now is to use the looser side of the comb, and I'm just going below the ear. And now I can comb down, and you can see it's not dragging the roots. All you need to do is stabilize the hair. See, the thing with this haircut, guys, is it has to look good without you involved. So the more stuff you do to it, the more things are going to go wrong with it. Like putting the hair in your fingers. Common sense tells me that I'm not going to walk around with this haircut all day in my fingers. And if I cut it in my fingers, the line only looks good in my fingers. As soon as I let go, it springs up and does what it wants to do. So, back to the haircut. Below the ear, combing that down, and we'll just establish that front line. I'm keeping it around the neckline of the mannequin. That's the longest the bob can be. As soon as it touches his shoulders, it's not a bob anymore because it doesn't swing freely. So, long bob is just above the shoulder. I work in panels, vertical panels, and I only work about that much at a time because the head's curved. I tap above the comb to release any excess tension. If you notice my body position, I'm stood directly in front of everything. So the line I'm cutting is a flat line, as in level. It's not angled, so it's not a line or anything like that. A lot of people will call this square. It's not a square. A square has four corners. Okay, and if I look up here, I don't see four corners anywhere. Your hairline, when it falls, is actually like a horseshoe or a U. And that line can do this, this, this. It can zigzag. Whatever line you can draw on a piece of paper, you could cut. So now that that's in, I'm going to just bring this down now. See, if you work from the back, generally you're going to work plenty more sections. Whereas when you work from the front, I'm literally doing a 2-section bob here. If she had more density, it'd probably be a 3-section bob or a 4-section bob. Again, everything will be determined based on density. How thick that hair is. Again, spray the hair. Now that I'm actually on that last area, combing the hair is very important that you put it into place. And once it's in place, don't revisit the roots. So now you can see, again, this is a pre-cut mannequin that I did yesterday. So it's got a layer in there already. So this is pretty much just like your client would be. She's probably got existing layers and she's probably got an existing longer length. I find that this is the haircut that most people move towards when they're kind of sick of the long hair. They bring it up to this longer bob area. So I'd say this is probably the second most popular haircut on the planet, whereas yesterday we did the most popular haircut on the planet. And then the third most popular haircut right now is probably the shag. So we might get to do one of those if we get through this with time. So now I've done that first side, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to do this one because of the lighting.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
And it'll be the same thing. I'm going to use the same sectioning. So I'll work from the apex around to the occipital. Get that out of the way. And now we'll do the same exact thing. Now, starting from the front, I always get the question, well, how do you balance it? It's very simple. Use your mirror. You could technically, if you want to, continue coming all the way around now that you've got that length in there. But it's very important that I get the sides perfect first before I move into the back. So I'll work this first and then I'll see that. The good thing about this is I'm using kind of a focal point, which is the neckline. So hopefully the pivot point have a very even neckline. It's not like that. So comb it again. Once it's in place, don't go back to the root because you'll just drag through and you'll create more hair to cut. Once it's in place, go kind of lower than the ear and just hold it in place with the comb. So I'm allowing the hair to do its thing by tapping. And now I can just put my length in. So I don't want to use too much tension on this texture while putting this outline in because I might lose it. Moving through into this area. See, now I can actually see the other side. So it's almost like connecting the dots. And again, this is kind of an easier way of getting your bob length in. Again, less tension. I'm not pulling on the hair. This is a wavier texture. This haircut is worn wavy, you know, by popular trend. So that's kind of why I work with this mannequin, because the wave is really kind of popular right now. We're not really flat ironing hair super smooth much anymore. Same thing, get it in place, go lower than the ear. Again, there's not much hair to cut now because of the pre-existing layers that we've got. And that would be that done. So I'll just turn her around. We'll have a look. What I'm not going to do, guys, is I'm not going to get the old fingers in there and start doing measure. I know a lot of people do that, but you don't walk around doing that all day, pulling the hair down. You have to let the hair go. It has to look good without you involved. The only true way to see balance is to see it, not to feel it. And the reason why, guys, is one side of the head could be completely different to the other side of the head in head shape. So it will fall differently. So if you start doing this, then you might not get the right results. If you do it just to kind of get an idea, then do that. But you're never really going to truly get it by doing that. You get it by looking in the mirror, standing back from the haircut and having a look at it. So let's layer this outline now. Now, the problem is with this haircut is we have less hair in the front because the hairline's all the way up here, and we have more hair in the back because the hairline's all the way down there. So what generally or can tend to happen is we layer, but we don't layer in the right way, and then all of a sudden this front area is gone, it's jumped up, it's come up, and now it's gone transparent. So my thing is we're going to keep this. So to me, this is a very classic haircut. It's probably the third haircut that I ever learned because it's all about protecting an outline. So, you know, the first haircut that you really learn is to create the line. Then you learn how to graduate those lines, and then you learn how to layer it. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just going to layer this. And this can be done on any length. An outline is an outline. It doesn't matter where it is. It's the same principle that I'm going to show you. So the first thing I want to do is I want to just work the area in the crown. Like I did yesterday, I worked the layers in the crown first because that's where the layers are going to be. They're not really going to be down here. They're going to be through here. So I'm going to just section away the front to start with. So from the about top of the crown almost down to right to the top of the ear there. You don't have to get that close though. So the situation here, guys, is the fact that you have from here to here to choose a guideline. But you only have from here to here in the front. So there's less density here than there is here. So in this area, you pick a guide or you pick a spot to layer it. And sometimes it's quite difficult to figure out where that is, right? If you're just kind of guessing. But if you think about it, guys, that's the weakest point of the hairline. So if I get a guide that's lower than that part, then this is going to go. If I think about this, right, put your comb on there. This is actually a ridge. It's a round of the head, right? And if I follow that ridge all the way through, it turns into the occipital ridge. So I know that I'm going to get my guide from the occipital ridge or higher. If I get it lower, there's no hair here like there is here. All right, so that's a really kind of a cool thing to know, guys. That's layering while protecting an outline right there. So let's do this. We'll drop her down, don't want to be too stretched out. Same principles as yesterday. Section size doesn't want to be any thicker than the fingers or finger that you use to cut hair with. She's level. So, straight out from the head 90 degrees, then I'm going to use the occipital as a guideline. So my occipital's right there. So I can let a little bit drop out if I wish, just to be on the safer side. And I'm just cutting a layer that literally follows the curvature of the head shape. So now I've layered while I've protected this length down here. So if I look in this section, if I come through here, I'm going to see a really big corner. See that? That's my outline. You've just created that corner by using the O-bone and taking all that excess weight off. So let's keep going. Over directing the hair straight back. Again, that is the nicest flow of weight from back to front. If I over direct everything to the center, then it is a very aggressive drop off of weight. We joke about that here. That's the, I'm going to need to speak to the manager haircut, aka the Karen. Just too heavy towards the front there. So when I comb this down, look at this door. You can see, come over here. There we go. Now it's beveled. And that's really what a layered bob is. It's a beveled bob. If you were wearing it smooth. But because we don't wear it smooth, you see all the kick, and it actually expands the outline and makes it quite thick. All right, let's keep going. Always combing the side of the section that you're about to cut, not the guide. If the guide moves off its base towards you, then it becomes shorter, and you actually cut the layers shorter. Feet positioning, again, it's the same thing as yesterday. Whatever I do with my right foot at this time right now will determine where I over direct the hair to. And again, I'm always constantly using the mirror. Condensing these last few sections because I now have a stationary guide at the round of the head. nothing reaches. If that would have reached, it means I would have cut that shorter. That's my bob. So if I'd have cut that shorter, I would have taken the bob shorter. Game over. All right? Nowhere should you be making those kind of mistakes in a haircut after the client has told you that she wants this exact length. So you can see the layer and my strong outline still. So I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Move that a bit, like backwards, too close. That's better. Then they see the whole thing. So just get rid of the front, don't need that right now. And again, doing the same thing. Now I'm not going to switch body positions. I talked about this yesterday. If I stand here, I get to work from the bottom up and I can control the layer. If I stand on this side where you guys are, it means I'll work from the top down and I'll actually cut this shorter and do that longer. That's not what I'm looking for. I want this to follow the head shape from the occipital below. So I'll actually stand in this exact same spot. But now I'm going to have to be very careful that I don't overly over-direct this towards the center. So I'm going to use my mirror and I'm going to keep my feet in the right spot so that I don't. Hope everybody's enjoying this so far. Again, this is kind of just one of those classic haircuts that happens to be very trend right now, the last few years. But it's a classic technique that everybody should know. Layering while controlling an outline, also known as the layered bob or triangular layering. So again, I'm using the mirror, making sure that I'm not pushing it towards you, or I'm not pulling it too far towards me. Once I look in the mirror, I can see it's in the right spot. And go for it. Again, combing the side of the section that I'm about to cut, not what I've already cut. That one was a kind of a big one for me as a young apprentice, because when you watch people comb hair, they multiple combers would just comb each side of the section about 1,000 times, and then pull it somewhere and cut it. And I quickly realized that that's probably not the best thing for you. Comb what you're going to cut, not what you've already cut. The idea is to stay the same length or get longer, not go shorter. Unless you intentionally want to go short. I've reached around to the head, so I can just condense this now. We'll cross check to see what's going on. A little bit there. That means I pulled it down a little too low, that top bit. All right, so now we're going to move into the front, and we're going to switch this pattern. We're going to move it to the side. So she's got the side part. And now we're going to take this through into the sides, what we've already done. So I'm going to section the top away in a horseshoe section. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, so let's do the sides. We're going to continue in the same manner, guys. Just pulling everything back that reaches. If there is something to cut, remember we've already cut that. Take it through all the way to the front. And now you're starting to see there's a little bit to cut. Because it's a stationary guideline, I can condense, which is great for timing. If I was to take those individual sections all the way through, then that's going to take more time. So by condensing it, obviously, reduces the time that you're doing things. But you've got to understand when you can condense and when you can't condense. If you have a stationary guideline, you can condense all day long. But if you're traveling through, you can't do that. So I traveled through until I got to the round and then pulled everything to that. So now taking this.
Don, could you stand right behind him, please?
Right there? Oh, behind him.
No, right where you were. I'm sorry. Right behind the mannequin. I apologize.
Okay. There?
I'm sorry.
See, now you can see the over direction. You get Mimi to show you her moves.
She's had a little more practice than me.
You're doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, Dawn's great. Dawn's been doing this for years with me, so like I said yesterday, it's not our first rodeo.
I'm good on the pictures because I know where he's going to go. It's just a little bit of maneuvering the camera, so.
Let's talk about this part now.
Okay.
So stand in front of me, Dawn, like right there. Not too close though.
Huh?
All right. So when you work the top and you work with the side parting, you cannot cut both sides the same. See, this is what happens if you cut both sides the same. Right, there's my fingers and my thumbs. Which what happens? Can you see that this side sits much higher than what this side does? That's what happens when you use the side parting and you cut it symmetrically through the top. So technically this has to be longer than this side because this travels much further over the top of the head and then down onto this side. That's why when you see, like when you're watching the news, you look at the newscaster and one day her hair's parted this side and her layers are like that. And then the next day her layers are like that because she's parted on this side. What that is that old myth of someone saying, I'll cut it in the middle and you'll be able to flip-flop. Use common sense, guys. Think about it. That doesn't work whatsoever. Wherever they wear their parting, you have to cut it to that. There is no flip-flop. If it's a low, deep side parting, that means it's past and below the round of the head. It's no longer part of the top. It's in the side. Then you can flip-flop. But it's going to be majorly asymmetric because it's a deep side parting. That's what happens. But when you want to balance something on a side parting, you have to make one side longer than the other. So this is what has to happen. This is the middle, right? So you can see that this side has to travel this much further to go over there. So technically, this side has to be this much longer than this side. So that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do, but how do you do it? That's the key thing. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to over-direct back onto the crown. See, this is what we've just done. Stay there.
Mm-hmm.
We've just done the underneath, and I've got that. That's my cross-check from the back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take horizontal sections through to the front, vertical sections through to the front, and I'm going to over-direct everything onto that. All the way through. So it's a stationary guideline in the crown. What that means is my sections can be on the larger side because it's a stationary guideline. But I don't want them to be too big because I want to be able to control the hair from front to back. This needs to be organized and clean. So by taking too big of a section, it all gets bunched up in the root area and it never gets to be precise. Things like that make your haircut lumpy. After you've blow dried, you see it all lumpy. It doesn't actually look fluid and blended. And then you have to try and blend it. I mentioned this yesterday. I like the house to be perfect from the beginning. I don't want to be coming in and refining to get rid of mistakes. Again, this is, you know, you're dealing with somebody's face shape, head shape, body structure. And if you do something wrong, then it makes them not look complimentary. I find it amazing that sometimes in our industry, average haircuts are acceptable. It shouldn't be. It should be perfect. It has to look good when you're not involved. Remember, your clients aren't amazing blow dryers. So if you do a really bad haircut or an average haircut, your blow dry skills are really good. You're like a Jedi with a round brush and a flat iron and a curling iron. But clients, they suck at doing their own hair. So a haircut has to be much more perfect than what some people think, so that it just does what it does. Makes it easier for the client to do. So come over here, Dawn. Now you can see I've protected my outline and we've layered it. So we've got the quintessential layered bob. And again, this could be longer if you wanted to. It could go shorter if you wanted to. But technically a bob sits above the shoulders. All right, now we're going to do this side. So on this side, I brought everything back to that first section. So that's the heaviest it can be, which is what I want. But now on this side, I don't want it to be as heavy. It has to be that much shorter because that's how much the parting is away from the middle. So it starts off the same. I'm going to use the exact same guide that I did on the previous side. See, the balance of the parting doesn't come into play until you work from the round of the head forward. The back has to be even. If the back's not even, then it's going to be like a bald man's comb over, where it's flapping around in the back. It kind of covers all the stuff here, but it looks really weird and moving all over. I need a connection all the way through. So I connect exactly the same way. The crown is my guide. And here we go. Now we travel. So instead of bringing everything back to the first section, now I'm going to bring everything back to the previous section. So I'm utilizing different over direction to take out more weight. So I get rid of my crown section. I've got my previous and my new section. And I'm going to bring that back into this. Come over here, Dawn. You'll see the over direction is completely different. So then now I get rid of that one. This is my guide. Take the next section. And again, this is going to come straight up and this one goes back into it. So I'm using less over direction on the parting side so that we can make the haircut symmetrical. Now, if you have one of those kind of clients that thinks that everything has to be even, as if it's been cut with a flow bead, then they're going to have a problem when they see that one side is longer if they start measuring. But you have to educate the clients, just like I told you then why. And once you explain to them, they'll get it. They can see that what has to happen. I think it's very important that you do educate your clients so that they know that this isn't a lob down here. That's just something that InStyle magazine named it. So I've reached the apex. Now we drop off. Same spot here. The head turns and curves in. So for safety, I'm actually going to bring the hair back to the apex. So now I have a stationary guideline at the apex. I'm going to pull this back to it. And I'm going to take that off. Now I'm going to have a little see where that falls. If I need to use more over direction, then I will. Or less, excuse me. So now look at the difference. You see that? This is that much longer. And now, guys, we're even Stevens. Get right here so they can see. Even. So that's how you balance the side parting. So I hope that really helps you. That's a pretty cool way of doing it. I've heard other versions of people doing it. They don't work. This is the one that works. I've heard people bring everything over to the parting, but then it's going to be the same length as this side, so that doesn't work. You have to use more over direction on the heavier side, less on the lighter side. So I think we've got a little bit of time left. How are we doing on time, Willie?
You're doing great, man.
Good.
20 minutes, and that'll leave a couple minutes at the end for the for your video package that you're giving away, right?
Perfect. So I'm going to do a little bonus thing for you here. I'm going to do another haircut. So I'm going to turn this layered bob into a shag. Now, a shag haircut is round concave layers, which means it's heaviest in the back. So when you actually do a true shag haircut or a shake haircut for you guys in England, shagging's not haircutting where I'm from. So basically, what the classic version is to use vertical diagonal back sections, put your outline in, and then you would use elevation and over direction and work all the way through. And this would end up being the heaviest spot. Again, that's going to make this area super flat. So the fact that we've got a triangular layer in there really makes this look cool, because I'm going to combine round and triangular now. So I won't leave that mullet peak in the back. When I look at all the shag haircuts, it's always a front view. Never seen a side or a back view yet, because I know it's super flat here. All the actions around the front, because the shag that everybody does now is to pull everything forward onto the first section. That's just like face framing layers, right? So it leaves this very, very heavy. So if you combine the two, you get a really good flow of weight from back to front instead of that. So here's how I do it. This comes from, obviously, me experimenting, as I've done over the years. The first time I ever did this variation, almost 20 years ago now. So really cool way of doing it. Remember, haircut is three-dimensional, so you have to cut it the same way. You can actually cut it the opposite way. So I'm going to section away from the apex to right at the back of the ear. Try and make that cleaner. And it's a relatively quick haircut, this one. I'll do that on both sides. Okay, so back separated from the front. So my first panel is this front round over the head. And instead of working vertical diagonal back, I'm just going to work a horizontal section at the top. I'm going to use elevation to create this haircut, not over direction. So my first section is going to be straight out from the head. So again, the head's curved, so straight out is here, not up to the ceiling. Okay.
Do that again.
Straight out is right there because the head is curved.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a box, so I wouldn't be lifting it up to the ceiling. If I did that, I'm over directing this. So I want it straight out from the head. Now this is going to be the shortest part of the haircut. So wherever you cut this, that's the shortest spot. So let's have a look at that. Right on that cheekbone. Go a little bit lighter than that, I feel. What I'm doing now, guys, this is how you do a curtain bang as well, or fringe. So I'm going to do it right around that area. And I'm going to bring everything into the first section. So I'm elevating into number one. This is going to create a concave layer, because what it means, it's going to get longer and heavier towards the bottom because I'm pulling away from what I want to keep. The great thing about this is it's stationary, so I can do this. This could be the quickest haircut you ever do. Using my mirror to make sure my elevation is into the right spot. And that's it. That's that front bit done. Now I look at that. We've got the start of a shag. Obviously, I've not styled it or anything yet. And again, you can do this on whatever length you want, guys. It's up to you. And we do the same thing on the other side. Straight up to the ceiling, separate the two sides, and now I'm just going to bring everything into that first section. The ultimate in condensed haircutting. So when I left Vidal Sassoon, I moved to Paul Mitchell, which is a completely different culture, obviously. And I learned a lot about condensing because a lot of the artists at Paul Mitchell would condense haircuts. And it really, truly, you know, showed me when and when not to, and how to approach haircuts in a different manner that I'd done more classically. Cute, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now connect the back. So to connect the back, all I'm going to do is I'm going to section down the center here. And I'm going to pivot my sections. We did the pivoting yesterday.
Which side are you starting on?
We'll start here.
Okay.
So I'm going to pivot from the apex, which is where I pivoted the round layer yesterday all the way around, right? So all I'm going to do now is pivot the opposite way. From the apex, I'm going to pivot this way to the front. I'm going to use what I've already cut in the front as a guide. Come over here, John.
Mm-hmm.
Look at my cutting line. See, there's the front, there's the back. All I do is connect the two. So that's round and triangular meeting each other right there. So it creates a corner. Don't cut the corner off. You need that corner. And I'm pivoting around, no over direction, straight up to the ceiling until I reach this part. And that part's already cut, so I won't touch in that. Last bit. And now we'll do the other side. Same spot. I'm going to stand with my fingertips at the shortest point, knuckles moving to longer towards the elbow. I don't want to cut the opposite way, cut this being longer and this being shorter. Don't have much control over that. Remember, know how your body works. Use it to your advantage. You'll see a lot of people do it the other way. It's just not the most easiest way to do it. To me, I use a lot of common sense. And you can, if you didn't want to cut this blunt, the whole thing you could just cut by using the points of the scissors, so you get a looser, more textured. Probably something my friend Anthony Edge would do, being he's a TG, Tony and Guy artist, or used to be, and likes to use the more textured, lived-in feel. Whereas me, from Sassoon, I'm all about those precise lines. So I worked all the way around, short to long. So I've just done this. And there we have the shag. So I can come in the front now and I can actually just kind of customize this fringe to make it do exactly what I want it to do on that cheekbone. So again, guys, this is also part of my Knowledge Destroys Fear class. It's a hands-on class that I do. It's very difficult to do nowadays. So my Knowledge Destroys Fear class, I have a video version of it, which we're going to give away in this class at the end. But you can also get that at my website, knowledgedestroysfear.com. Right now it's on a heavily discount. It's usually $400. We're selling it right now for about $175.
DJ, if you were doing this cut from the beginning and you needed to take length off, would you do the length first and then the layers, or?
I go straight for the layers. Anytime you put length in, it just makes it very strong. If that's what you're after, then yeah. But I would probably do the layers first and then hit the outline afterwards. Anyway, there we have it. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. It's a real quick haircut. Just to recap of what we've done today, we put the bob in first. I used the curved section in, so I was working the bob from the front towards the back. Then what we did is we came through and we layered, understanding that when you layer any kind of bob or length and you want to protect that length all the way through, even if it was down here or if it was up here, you're going to have to use the occipital ridge as your guide, because that occipital ridge is in direct line with the weakest point of the hairline. So if I get a guide lower than the O-bone, then we lose this front area. And then we did the side parting, which is completely gone now because I've just layered the whole front. We learned how to balance the side parting. What it means is the parting side has to be shorter than the non-parting side. One side has to be heavier than the other. So you have to use a lot more over direction on one side than you do the other side. And then we turned it into a shag, another very popular haircut. Different variation, section out the front, working a layer that follows the head shape, elevating everything into number one, both sides, and then pivoting around the back and just connecting that through. So yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed that one to start your day off. Get you in the mood for all the other top education that's going to come your way today.
Everyone seems to be liking it.
I'll be watching and drinking tea all day long, so enjoy that one. How about that, Willie?
That was great, man. Thank you. I'm not gonna lie. I'm selfish and I love it. I get a front row seat. So
That's cool, buddy.
Thank you. So let's give something away if we can here, maybe even live. If you guys have to run, I understand if you take off. I get it. If not, cool. We're gonna give some stuff away. So here it is. We're giving away an awesome toolkit provided by your sponsors, which would be Shark Fin, a set of shears and a razor. Andis, the Shark Fin shears are from the Pro line, so swivel in, non-swivel, whatever you would like. The Andis, the MV-LI, and the Pro LI cordless rechargeable. A full set of ergo brushes, and of course the fan favorite from Pivot Point, Erica. And DJ is also throwing in the video series KD2, right?
Yep, Knowledge Destroys Fear 2. It's about 6 hours. There's about 11 techniques that I teach in that. It's literally my entire class in a video format.
Awesome, man. That in itself, guys, if I'm not mistaken, is valued at $400 or over $400 just in itself.
Yeah.
So thank you for donating that, DJ.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. So we're just at 888-544-7254. Just text your first and last name and you're entered in We'll give it a minute or so because I don't know if you can hear my computer buzzing, but it's blowing
It's
up.
buzzing away, right? I can hear it.
It's baking. It might explode.
It'd be good if it was Vegas. Ching, 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 ching.
Nothing good has ever happened for me in Vegas, man. That's not true. I take that back.
Good hair shows in Vegas, buddy.
That was not a nice thing for me to say. I immediately regret the decision to say that.
Well, you could have lost a lot of money.